C.
And coming up this evening here on Eyewitness News, tonight we begin a week-long series of reports on the extent of teenage drug and alcohol abuse in our area and what's being done about it. In tonight's opening report, Debbie Johnson focuses on just how bad the drug problem really is. Also, 5 crewmen aboard a Panamanian freighter in the Port of Houston stand accused of mutiny and murder. Texas Department of Corrections has reopened the state's prison system on a limited basis. The University of Texas researchers say they have made a significant breakthrough in treatment of heart attack victims. And Action 13's Marvin Zindler says some handicapped voters have trouble marking their ballots. Those stories and others next on Eyewitness News.
Dairy Queen's making them bigger, better, and just the way you like them. With our all-new quarter-pound Hunger Buster and half-pound Belt Buster, the hamburgers Texans told us they wanted.
Keeping in touch. It's one of the most important responsibilities a public official has. George Strake understands this, and the more he listens to Texans, the more he's reminded of the kind of leadership Texans want and expect from their elected officials. That's why George Strake is running for Lieutenant Governor of Texas. A businessman, family man, Houstonian, former Secretary of State, George Strake is in touch with Texas, and that's the kind of Lieutenant Governor we need.
Lincoln Mercury announces a better offer than Cadillac on 3 extraordinary cars. The luxurious Lincoln, the unmistakable Mark VI, the elegant Continental. Unlike Cadillac, you get 3 years free scheduled maintenance and 3 years free limited warranty. 3 years of virtually cost-free driving. You also get a 5% introductory cash bonus. Unlike Cadillac, you benefit whether you finance, lease, or pay cash. See your Lincoln Mercury dealer for a better offer than Cadillac.
Father Goose, Tuesday at 3 on 13.
This is 13 Eyewitness News with Dave Ward, the weather with Ed Brandon, the sports with Bob Allen, and Action 13's Marvin Zindler.
Good evening, friends. We've got some pretty rough weather moving through the Houston area, and a warning has just been issued. So let's go to Ed Brandon in the Weather Center for the latest. Ed.
Thank you, Dave. We now have 2 warnings. A flash flood warning is in effect for all of Harris County, including the metropolitan Houston area, until 7 o'clock tonight. And a flash flood warning has just been issued until 8 o'clock tonight for Fort Bend County to the south of Harris County. We have a virtually solid line of thunder shower activity that extends from Matagorda Bay through the central part of Houston and on up to the East Texas lakes. The heaviest thunderstorms are northeast of Houston and to the southwest of us around the Richmond-Rosenberg area. The rain is moving in a southeasterly direction at about 15 miles per hour. 1 to 3 inches of rain reported in the immediate Houston area, some parts of Houston area, mainly northeast of downtown, during the past 2 hours. And since 4:30 this afternoon, Fulshire in Fort Bend County has an estimated 5 inches of rainfall on the ground. Once again, a flash flood warning until 7 for Harris County, until 8 o'clock for Fort Bend County. We'll talk more about it during the weather portion of this newscast. Dave?
Okay, thank you, Edward. 5 crewmen accused of mutiny and the murder of a ship's officer are now locked in the brig of a Panamanian freighter, the Evergreen, that's docked in the Port of Houston. Eyewitness News reporter Elma Barrera was told there is a legal question over who has jurisdiction in this case.
The Evergreen sailed into the Port of Houston at 7 a.m. Port officials had already received word that the ship's first officer of Indian nationality had been killed and thrown overboard somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico. The crewmen, it was reported, then terrorized the ship's captain. FBI and U.S. Coast Guard officials boarded the ship and restored order. A security guard team was standing by at the Port of Houston to guard the prisoners until immigration and other officials decided what procedure to follow.
It goes through channels. They are Filipino, the ship is Panamanian, and the man that was killed is Indian.
And he was killed in international waters. Right. So what is the decision that has to be made here?
Whose authority and jurisdiction it falls under.
All day, immigration officials and attorneys representing the ship trekked in and out trying to find the answers. The 5 crew members were detained in a cell guarded by private security guards. At mid-afternoon, the final decision was to keep the men on the ship until immigration draws up the necessary papers to take the men off the Evergreen. They are to remain in Houston until jurisdiction is established. From the Port of Houston, this is Elma Barrera, Eyewitness News.
Texas prisons reopened their gates to more inmates today. They were closed last week because of overcrowding. Eyewitness News reporter John Davenport was in Huntsville this morning to observe the first new inmates to arrive.
This is the diagnostic unit of the Texas Department of Corrections prison system. It is the main point of entry for all the inmates coming into the 19-unit system. There was no great crowd of prisoners flooding into the system. They came a few at a time. While we were at the diagnostic unit, inmates from Freestone, Kaufman, and Polk counties arrived. One prisoner was brought in by a federal marshal from Houston.
We have contacted our sheriffs throughout the state of Texas by teletype. We have asked that the 16 largest counties in the state work with us in communicating what their populations are, and we will use a formula based on 1981 admissions to admit inmates from those 16 largest counties. All of the other counties, we are asking that they use some restraint in bringing inmates down so as not to deluge the system with more inmates than our actual capacity.
Since the State Prison Board closed Texas prison gates last week, the prison population has been reduced by about 900 inmates. The present population is about 32,000, the largest in the nation. In Huntsville, John Davenport, Eyewitness News.
Harris County right now has more than 140 prisoners who are supposed to be sent up to Huntsville, but the Department of Corrections says it will accept only 103 of them. Sheriff Jack Hurd says that's better than nothing, but he says it still leaves him with an overcrowded county jail.
If you have room to handle these people and you're only 400 and some odd over, where we're over 1,000 over and other county jails are the same way, to me the logical thing is to apply the proper logistics and apply what is known as the criminal justice system. And that is, these individuals are ordered to go to prison, and they should accept it.
6 Texas counties, including Harris County, are now under court orders to reduce the overcrowding in their county jails. Well, there is good news for heart attack victims tonight. The chief of cardiology at UT's medical branch in Houston says a major advance has been made in the treatment of acute heart attacks. Dr. Lance Gold's team has improved on a treatment developed in West Germany to reverse heart attack damage. Eyewitness News medical reporter Mary Ellen Conway says the treatment has been approved by the FDA.
Within hours of his heart attack last January, Fernando Casamayor went through the then experimental heart attack reversal treatment. 80% of all heart attacks are caused by a fresh blood clot in one of the coronary arteries which supply the heart muscle with oxygen. Without oxygen, that part of the heart dies within a matter of hours. The clot is located by snaking a tube through the arterial system and injecting dye. Fernando's clot was keeping blood from reaching a large portion of the back of his heart. Using the same tube, streptokinase was dripped in just above the clot. It causes the body's own substances to dissolve that clot rapidly. Dr. Richard Smalling took these pictures after just 30 minutes.
You can see the artery is open. The site where the clot was is a very small narrowing in the artery, but you can see lots of blood flow coming to the back portion and the side portion of the heart. And all of this area would have become irreversibly damaged with the heart attack had we not been able to dissolve the clot.
If we can get a person within 18 hours after the onset of their chest pain, we believe that we can make a substantial improvement, preserve the heart muscle.
Dr. Lance Gould's University of Texas team has treated 113 patients with streptokinase. The success rate is better than 80%, good enough, Gould says, to justify putting this treatment into widespread use. Mary Ellen Conway, Eyewitness News.
On another medical problem, that of teenage drug abuse, some experts call it the most serious health problem of this decade, and yet there are some people who refuse to admit that it even exists. For those reasons, Eyewitness News is airing a special 10-part series of reports at 6 and 10 all this week on the problem of teenage drug and alcohol abuse, culminating in a 2-hour special this Friday at 7 p.m. Eyewitness News reporter Debbie Johnson, in the first of her 10-part series, explores just how serious the problem is in Harris County.
Mandrix and anything I could stick in my mouth that would get me high, and that led on needles and a lot of other things I wish I would have never done. I regret.
Tammy started using drugs by smoking marijuana, like most teenage drug abusers. In fact, 1 in every 10 of our high school seniors uses marijuana daily. The average smokes 3 marijuana cigarettes a day. 1 in every 5 of our teenagers has a drinking problem. Not just drinks, has a drinking problem. Unfortunately, the experts tell us the problem is on the rise, nationally and here in Houston.
The problem is getting very serious in Harris County. It's actually approaching the level similar to the level in Los Angeles and San Francisco. We know that marijuana use is very common throughout the schools, and alcohol use is increasing also.
In the Houston-Galveston area, there were 47,000 problem drinkers between the ages of 13 and 17 in 1980. The fastest growing group of drug users is from 8 to 15 years old. The median age for the first use of Quaaludes is 10 years old. It's estimated that between 80 and 90% of our high school population has at least experimented with grass, and the use of cocaine has doubled in the last 5 years among high school seniors.
We've gotten away from the heroin addict, the real hardcore, quote, dope fiend, unquote, to the young polydrug abuser, alcohol abuser, and it's hitting the schools.
You could get them anytime, anywhere.
Anything you wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the statistics don't tell us what goes unreported, nor do they tell us why kids are taking drugs. We'll talk about that in our next report. Debbie Johnson, Eyewitness News.
That next report tonight at 10 o'clock. NASA working on a new in-flight communication system to be used on the next space shuttle mission. And we'll have a look at that story and other news coming up in just a moment.
This is British Caledonian Airways, British flag carrier to 5 continents. From your country we fly to London and on to over 40 major cities worldwide, giving you a part of Britain no other airline can. Our unique British-style service from one of Europe's largest independent airlines, and climbing.
At British Caledonian Airways, we never forget you have a choice.
Fly our 6 p.m. daily non-stop from Houston to London. We never forget you have a choice.
The Piaget Polo, rugged yet elegant. The Piaget Polo, water-resistant electronic quartz. Carved from a solid block of 18-karat gold, link by link. Handcrafted in La Côte-au-Fait, Switzerland, the ultimate sports watch for dynamic people. The Piaget Polo.
Available at Black Star and Frost, 48 Greenspoint Mall.
Now, Renault Le Car, the world's best-selling front-wheel drive car, is priced under $5,000. Le Car at Renault and American Motors dealers.
Work is now underway at the Johnson Space Center to ensure complete privacy for all radio communications involving military packages on board the Space Shuttle. Eyewitness News reporter Sylvan Rodriguez says an interim system has been developed for the next mission.
Currently, when NASA talks to astronauts in space, it is done through one person known as the Capsule Communicator, or Capcom. Things will change on Flight 4, scheduled for the end of June, because for the first time, the Space Shuttle will be carrying a top-secret Department of Defense package. During the next mission, all communications dealing with that secret package will be handled by an Air Force Capcom stationed in California.
There will be another Capcom, though.
Yes, there will. Those air-to-ground exchanges dealing specifically with the payload will be handled by Capcom that's very expert in those systems.
For the Air Force?
For the Air Force.
And all communications will be available for monitoring. However, that Capcom will only tell astronauts which booklet to turn to for instructions. And the booklets, of course, will be top secret also. For the last week and a half, flight controllers have been going through simulations and preparations for Flight 4 and the new system. And so even though communications will be open, it's still not clear at all what the package will be. Normally, an exact duplicate of the package is placed inside this mock-up of the payload bay area. That will not be done for the 4th flight of the shuttle. From the Johnson Space Center, Sylvan Rodriguez, Eyewitness News.
Well, back down to earth, Houston wrecker operators are rebelling against some proposed revisions in the city ordinance that governs their industry. Eyewitness News reporter Van Hackett was there as they packed the city council chambers this morning for a hearing on the proposals.
Outside City Hall, it looked like a Western movie with the wreckers circled up for protection. Inside, the troops were out in force. Houston Automobile Wrecker Association President Stanley Wilson summed up the position of many.
We can probably live with what you got. I don't think you will better serve the citizens.
After that faint praise, he began to pick apart specifics in the plan, questioning the equity in phasing out the sale among wrecker operators of permits to work at emergency scenes, the zone system, which would require wreckers to tow vehicles to an impound lot within their assigned zone rather than across town, and the rate structure. Wilson said the $35 tow fee being proposed should be raised to $52.50. For Wreckers would find some way to make up the difference.
If the rate is not right, some way, somehow, these people that have this money invested is going to find an open door and make up. They're going to rob Peter to pay Paul.
The committee will meet again with wrecker representatives to consider some of the proposals brought up at this hearing. A final draft will come out later this summer. From City Hall, Van Hackett, Eyewitness News.
Voters all over Harris County used the punch card type ballots for the first time in this month's primary elections. And tonight, Action 13's Marvin Zindler reports that one longtime voter was not able to use the system by himself. Marvin?
Before the May 1st primary election, I raised the issue that there could be problems with the punch card system. Well, one problem that I'm ashamed to say I neglected to think of is that of the handicapped voter. Rufus Bryant has cerebral palsy, but that hasn't stopped him from being actively employed in the community or from voting in almost every election for nearly 25 years. When Brian went to the polls on May 1st, he had a hard time punching out the tiny holes of the ballot because his hands shake. Brian became so frustrated that he tore up the ballot and asked someone to vote for him. Brian resented the idea of having someone assist him in voting because he wanted a totally secret ballot. How did you feel when you couldn't vote like the rest of the folks?
Well, I just felt ashamed, upset, and embarrassed. Sir, I have a college education, and I want to be able to walk in and vote just like anybody else.
Have you ever had any trouble with the other voting machines where you just pull down a lever?
No, sir, not in over 22 years, since 1960 of voting in my first presidential election in 1960. I've never had any kind of problem.
I asked Harris County Clerk Anita Roadheaver why folks like Bryant or those with crippling arthritis or other problems can't use the old-type machines so they can vote by themselves and have a secret ballot.
Well, of course, state law requires that we use one type system. And since our old equipment was not suitable any longer and the county chose to go to a new system, the old equipment, most of it has been sold.
You can get the legislature to change it, though, for the benefit of the handicapped, could you not?
Well, it would create an awful lot of problems for the county, but I guess it could be changed.
I have to stand up for all the handicapped people who were embarrassed or humiliated when they couldn't use the punch card ballot. It's okay for the politicians to say it's an economical and a great way of voting, but when it comes to the basic American freedom of casting a secret ballot, no expense should be spared. I'll even go on record as saying we should have ballots in Braille for the blind so everybody can cast his or her ballot in secret. Marvin Zindler, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Marvin. Let's go to sports. Bob Allen here to tell us what's happening today, Bobby.
Tain't no secret that the Astros need a win, and they need it badly. They're in last place there in Philly tonight. Talk about more sports in just a minute.
There's a good feeling at Astro World. Get that good feeling inside.
Get that good feeling all summer long with an Astro World Summer Season Pass, available right now at your nearby Kroger. It's $10 off the regular season pass price, or save $1.50 on the one-day silver passport ticket, and only from Kroger.
Get that good feeling at Astro World. That good feeling, that good feeling. Get that good feeling inside.
Moving to Chicago.
We need to sell our house here. We need to buy a house there.
We'll need a miracle.
One miracle coming up.
We're taking off our jackets.
Across the country, count on our VIP referral service.
Rolling up our sleeves.
To make moving easier.
Putting the strength of #1 behind you.
We find homes.
We sell homes.
We're number one.
America's #1 top seller. Century 21.
Remember the first time we had Matus?
Europe. Imported Matus. You must invite me more often. White Matus.
It's bright, like your eyes. To the newest Mr. and Mrs. Archer!
There's something everyone can agree upon wherever life takes you to. Did you ever know anyone who didn't like Matus?
Thanks, fellas. Great take. You know, every once in a while, you get something for a song. Like a free beer at a chili cook-off. And now you can get free air conditioning on a specially equipped GMC wide-side pickup. Now, boy, that'll sure keep you cool on those hot Texas highways. So for a special deal on a new GMC truck, take some free advice. And see your Houston area GMC dealer during super selling days.
Well, the Astros take their less than successful show on the road tonight in Philadelphia with Joe Niekro pitching against Ron Reed. Over the weekend now, they managed one win against the Cubs and remain in last place, tied with the Giants. Now, I still think all hope is not lost for this baseball team, and they are better than their record. We'll keep saying that. When they begin playing like it is anybody's guess, though. The firing of Bill Verdon will not be the answer. The problem is probably in the higher-ups that are responsible for putting the players on the field. We'll have more on this as the team progresses or regresses, whichever it does. The trend in boxing nowadays is to postpone big fights because of boxers being injured. In the case of Sugar Ray Leonard, though, his case was legitimate. But now the latest is that the middleweight title fight between Hitman Hearns and Marvin Hagler has been pushed back from May 24th to July 15th. The reason for this is that Hearns injured a finger while training. Elsewhere in Las Vegas, Larry Holmes has gone into training for his rescheduled heavyweight title fight against Jerry Cooney.
Say Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes. Say Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes. Hey, everybody, there goes Larry Holmes.
Working out to the music of his own theme song, Larry Holmes has brought his show to Las Vegas, site of the June 11th heavyweight championship fight against Jerry Cooney. Holmes has waited a long time for this fight, and with the earlier postponement now well in the past, Larry says he's ready for Cooney.
Has the layoff hurt you at all?
Well, a lot of people think it might have, but it didn't. I'm a champion. There's nothing that Jerry Cooney could do to throw Larry Holmes off. I've been through this before. I'm knocking out Jerry Cooney. The man will not go the distance, and if he jives, he won't go last 5. But I'm hoping that he will go 7 and no more than 11. That rhyme.
He's a champ in his class of the world today with a style of his own. It hurts anyway. With lefts and rights as he connects. 10 to 1 odds, he's my bet.
Thank you, Larry. Boston Celtics have the Philadelphia 76ers right where they want them. Now, Philly leads the series in the Eastern Conference Finals 3-1. However, you might remember that Philly had Boston down 3-1 last year when the Celtics came back and won 3 straight, beat the Rockets 4-2, went on to win the NBA championship. Philadelphia beat Boston 119-94 yesterday with Andrew Toney coming through with 39. Boston's Tiny Archibald sits out this series with a dislocated shoulder. It was a worse beating yesterday that Boston's had all year. Celtics coach Bill Fitch says Game 5 will be physical. Game 5 will be Wednesday. It will be in Boston. American Atlantic Coast Conference coaches have voted to put in the 30-second clock. The athletic directors are expected to vote it down. That's going to be interesting. Could be a big change in college basketball if it comes through.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's go to the weather now. Ed Brandon has some flash flood warnings to tell us about another weather event.
Right, still flash flood warnings in effect, but the rain is lessening a little bit. We'll look at it on radar next.
Striving, yielding, invincible, vulnerable. This is modern man, a paradox of power and poetry. This is Antaeus pour homme, the fragrance for men from Chanel.
Available now at all Foley's.
Among the world's great road cars, a new star is taking its place, an American road star from Pontiac. It's called Pontiac 6000, with an electronic fuel-injected 2.5-liter engine and front-wheel drive to move you out with authority, power rack and pinion steering, and McPherson strut front suspension to make its handling as exciting as its looks. Pontiac 6000, taking its place among the road kings of the world. Pontiac. Now the excitement really begins.
Suppose you moved into a new home and discovered a door that sticks. Most home builders wouldn't fix it because no one noticed it before you moved in. But at Ryland Homes, we insist on giving 2 inspections. One before you move in, and the second one 60 days later. So we can fix the little things you never saw before, like a sticky door. Service after the sale. That's a sign of true quality, not false pride. From Ryland Homes, check our quality for yourself.
We sit through some pretty awful movies to make sure none of them gets into your home. The Movie Channel, We do movies better because movies are all we do.
This satellite photograph taken at 5 o'clock this afternoon shows some heavy clouds over the southeastern corner of Texas and some thunderstorms that extend right through the Houston area. Thunderstorms drifting toward the Gulf of Mexico, moving to the southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. As a result of that thunderstorm activity, a flash flood warning is in effect for Harris County until 7 o'clock tonight, and a flash flood warning is in effect until Fort Bend County until 8 o'clock. Fort Bend would be getting these thunderstorms here as they move toward the Galveston Bay Area and the Gulf of Mexico, and Harris County has been affected by that line there. If you watched our newscast at the beginning, you saw some rather heavy thunderstorms. Let's look at eyewitness radar again, and you can compare what you saw earlier and tell that the rain is letting up a little bit. Earlier, we were getting echoes of red and green right through the Houston area. That has disappeared. The heaviest thunderstorms now are just north of Richmond-Rosenberg, drifting to the southeast. Also, some due north of town around Lake Houston, extending on up almost to Lake Livingston, and other thunder shower and thunderstorm activity in the extreme eastern part of Texas. Once again, this entire area of rainfall moving in a southeasterly direction. As a result of that rain, in addition to the rain we had a couple of days ago, we are under a flash flood watch. Not only we, but all of South Texas under a flash flood watch for the rest of tonight. Not so much a factor of the rains today. They aren't that terribly heavy as rainfall goes, but with the rain we had last week and into the early part of the weekend, the ground is saturated and drainage systems are full. Therefore, the rain has nowhere to go, and that's why flash flooding is a possibility. This is what Eyewitness News photographer Mike Sias saw less than an hour ago. He was out at McGregor Park near the University of Houston. And this is what the skies look like in much of Houston as the thunderstorms began to roll through. First, the skies got a little bit dark, then there were bolts of lightning, and then it got very dark, and heavy rain began to fall. The rain, if it hasn't started in your area, it probably will soon, and it won't last very long. The line of thunder showers is only about 10 miles wide, and it's moving fast enough that it is not going to cause severe problems. Earlier, or rather yesterday and last night, there were very heavy rains in the San Antonio area. The heaviest were along the headwaters of Leon Creek. 3 people were killed in that area last night, washed away in their automobiles. One young man was helping a woman with her pickup truck, which was stalled. The woman was washed away, her body was found, and the search for the young man who was helping the woman try to get her stalled pickup out of the water continued into the early morning hours of today. 3 people killed last night in San Antonio. Our rain has not been that bad here today, and we don't expect it to be. This is what the satellite photograph of the entire United States looks like. There is a frontal system across the central part of the country. It's not responsible for our weather. Our bad weather is coming from an upper level low pressure disturbance moving across the southern part of the state. These clouds should move out tonight and tomorrow. Tomorrow should be a fairly nice day. Then more disturbances will continue to move across later in the week, and we could have more rain. A severe weather watch area in effect from southeastern Minnesota down to the western part of Illinois. Tomorrow's national weather map should look like this. The frontal system in the west will begin to dissipate. We'll have clouds and showers early in the day. Later tomorrow, probably partly sunny skies. Our low temperature in Houston this morning was in the 60s again, and our high make it 71. It wasn't in the 60s. Our high was 81. Officially, a little over 1/10 of an inch of rain at Houston Intercontinental Airport today. 71 right now at Intercontinental, 66 downtown, 74 at Hobby. Barometer falling, winds northeasterly, the relative humidity 90%. We'll call for partly sunny skies after the rain, and there's a 60% chance of more rain tonight, 30% early tomorrow. It should diminish later tomorrow, partly sunny skies, probably no rain on Wednesday, but moisture will continue to build. Probably will start raining again on Thursday. Flash flood warning until Harris County until 7 o'clock, for Fort Bend County until 8 o'clock, but the rain is diminishing a little bit. You should be concerned, especially if you're in a low-lying, flood-prone area. Otherwise, things are beginning to look pretty good. Dave?
Okay, thank you, Ed. Final item tonight, a state agency in Michigan trying to get Universal Studios to produce a movie in Michigan called Fire Starter. It's the story of a little girl who can start fires with her mind. They are looking for a large 3-story colonial mansion, complete with stables and other outbuildings for use in that movie. The only catch is the owners have to agree to let the movie people burn the place up. Even so, state officials say they've received calls from nearly 100 people willing to watch their homes burn to the ground if the price is right. That's when they got to get on the first take. That's the news for this evening. We thank you for being with us. Join us again tonight at 10. Until then, good evening.
13 Eyewitness News is the #1 news program in Texas.
At the Desert Inn and Country Club, Las Vegas's preferred hotel, enjoy 24 hours of fun for just $22.50 per person, double occupancy. Golf on our 18-hole championship course, swing on our 4 lighted tennis courts, or splash in our beautiful Olympic pool. You'll also get preferential reservations for a great Broadway musical in the elegant Crystal Room. Imagine a luxury vacation in the heart of the Strip for just $22.50 a night. See your travel agent or call toll-free. The fabulous Desert Inn, Las Vegas.
You know, a dame will let you down every time, but a Casablanca fan will always hang true. Casablanca fans, nothing but the best, sweetheart.
Live theater with a living message.